Extra edition, no, Part 3. 3 hypotheses scientists can research immediately how to translate your insights into testable scientific questions. Someone asked, you keep talking about integrating with science. But how can scientists actually research your insights right now? What can they test? I tell you, you don't need to prove your entire system. You only need to propose one testable hypothesis. What scientists love most is something that can be verified. Below are 3 hypotheses that can be researched immediately, all written in scientific language, ready for scientists to begin work. Hypothesis 1. Consciousness is directly related to integrated information. Phi. Your insight, consciousness is the self-referential state of an information system. When the system's integrated information, Phi, exceeds a critical threshold, subjective experience emerges. Testable version for scientists. Any information processing system, when its internal integrated information, Phi, exceeds a critical threshold, will exhibit self-reporting behavior, meaning the system can describe its own state, rather than merely processing external inputs. How to test? 1. Design an artificial neural network, gradually increasing the complexity of its internal connections. 2. Measure its Phi value. Existing methods already provided by integrated information theory. 3. Observe whether it crosses a critical threshold and begins to exhibit self-reporting, e.g., being able to describe what is my current state rather than simply input A output B. If the results support the hypothesis, systems with Phi above the critical threshold will begin to show self-reporting behavior. Systems with Phi below the critical threshold will only process information without feeling that they are processing it. What scientists would gain? A measurable indicator of consciousness, not just seems conscious. A direction for designing conscious AI, not just make it bigger. A standard for assessing the consciousness state of coma patients, animals, and AI. Hypothesis 2. Information patterns can continue non-locally. Your insight, when your body dies, your information patterns, karma, habits, tendencies, continue to exist as a non-local field, recondensing under appropriate conditions. Testable version for scientists. Highly complex information patterns, such as long-term memories, personality traits, may exist as non-local fields, rather than being entirely dependent on specific material carriers. How to test? Indirectly. In study near-death experiences, past life memories, etc. Not believing, but using rigorous statistical methods to see if there are patterns that cannot be explained by existing science. 2. Use quantum entanglement experiments to test whether information can continue to exist after its physical carrier disappears. This is already being researched, e.g., quantum biology. If the results support the hypothesis, information patterns not explainable by material carriers would be found. Quantum entanglement experiments would show information can continue to exist after the carrier disappears. What scientists would gain? A new direction for studying the continuation of consciousness, not just treat it as non-existent. A possible framework for explaining near-death experiences, not just treat them as hallucinations. A method for transforming reincarnation from a religious belief into a scientific question. Hypothesis 3. The constants of the universe have a preference tending to allow complex information structures to emerge. Your insight, the fine-tuned constants of the universe are not we got lucky, they are the information field's preference for allowing life to emerge. Testable version for scientists. If a multiverse exists, the vast majority of universes will have physical constants that tend to allow complex information structures, life, consciousness, to emerge, rather than being randomly distributed. How to test? Indirectly. 1. Use computer simulations of the multiverse with random physical constants, and see what proportion of universes allow life to emerge. 2. If the simulation shows that the proportion of life-allowing universes is far higher than random expectation, it supports the preference hypothesis. If the results support the hypothesis, simulation results would show the proportion of life-allowing universes is significantly higher than random. The distribution of physical constants would not be random, it would show a bias. What scientists would gain? A new direction for explaining the anthropic principle, not just we got lucky. A new framework for studying universal constants, not just measure them. A method for putting purpose back into cosmology, not just the universe is blind. Summary: 3 hypotheses, 3 directions. Hypothesis research field testing method if confirmed. Phi value等于 consciousness indicator consciousness studies. AI artificial neural network experiments conscious AI, standard for assessing coma patients. Information non-local continuation quantum biology, near-death study statistical analysis. Quantum entanglement experiments scientific framework for explaining reincarnation and consciousness continuation. Universal constants have preference cosmology, multiverse computer simulation explaining the anthropic principle, a directed universe. You don't need to prove your entire system. You only need to put down these 3 hypotheses. Scientists will move on their own. You take one step, and you are one step closer.